Guys, I am going to show y'all how I am replicating Yeung Man's nachos, and I'll link his video below because that's where I got this. However, he didn't make his chips, so let's start with that. So I started with about 25 tortillas, and then I cut them in quarters. And my iron skillet is very hot, so be careful. And I
can't really see the iron skillet on the camera because it's black on black surface, but
I have about, I don't know, maybe half a cup of oil in there. I didn't measure, I just eyeballed it. I just throw them in there in a few minutes, or like about a minute. I'll just flip them over with fork, and then pan to the left. I'll sprinkle them with salt right away when I pull them out, and then there's your chips.
It's important to make sure you're salting them right after they come off the stove, because otherwise, if you put them on when they're cold, salt doesn't stick.
Salt doesn't stick, so the oil on the chips makes your salt stick. Alright, it's been about 45 seconds. First I'll flip them over. I'm going to cook on the other side. I flip them when they start feeling a little crispy. Look at that one. That's great. Flip these ones. And if y'all have metal tongs, that'll work too, but I only have rubber, so I'm using a fork. And this is how I did it as a kid too, so.
Hashtag nostalgia.
Yeah. There we go. Let these cook for another 30 seconds or so, and then we'll pull them off.
It's really important to watch them because
they can burn easy. Although if you really like crispy chips, they're great. Alright, these are ready. I just flipped them over one more time. Look how gorgeous they are. I don't want them to cook anymore though, or they'll be hard.
There's a fine line between chewy tortilla chips and
perfectly crunchy. So I'll just lay, these are a little bit darker actually than the rest. It's okay. Quickly sprinkle with salt. I don't measure that either.
Measure that with your heart. Or your
arteries.
Or your arteries.
Put another batch in and keep repeating until you run out of chips. Or run out of tortillas.
Alright, so we're going to jump into our cheese sauce. So today we're not doing a traditional cheese sauce, we're going to do a cashew cheese. So if you're apprehensive to try it, I would say give it a shot before knocking it, just because
it's delicious.
It's not as far off from cheese as you think it would be. So let's get into it. So the first thing we need out of here is, don't mind the light, is cashews.
They've been soaking since early this morning.
Yeah, we don't have a high-powered blender, so we have to soak them, and it just makes it a lot easier to blend them when you don't have a high-powered blender. Otherwise, if you have a regular blender or anything that's not like a bullet blender, it'll be okay. So we need half a cup of cashews, half a cup of water, a tablespoon of paprika, and 2 tablespoons of chipotle hot sauce. I'm using Cholula, but you can use any variety that you want. It's just what we have on hand. And salt. Not too much because these cashews were pre-salted, but they probably more than rinsed off the salt from the soaking. Throw on the blades. I also put a timer on, or a stopwatch on, for about a minute just to make sure everything's blended correctly. Alright, so we're gonna sort of copied the same process, but with some different flavors for the main cheese sauce. I just finished up the chipotle, but because we're doing another cheese sauce, we don't need to rinse this out, so it cuts down a little bit of time. So we'll finish off the cashews that we have in here. We don't need to measure it because I did 1 cup of soaked, so this is the other half. 1 cup of water. I don't typically measure nutritional yeast because I like the stuff, and typically what people call for is a little bit less than what I want. So we'll do 2 tablespoons for the sake of the video, just to kind of give you some specific measurements. So 1, and 2.5. So the last few bits that we have here are onion powder, garlic, and salt. Each call for about half a teaspoon, not the salt, but the garlic and the onion powder. I typically eyeball this because we like each of these things. And you measure garlic with your heart anyways. A little bit more onion powder, I think. And a little bit of salt. And we should be good to go, I think.
Alright, next I'm gonna chop up a half of a green bell pepper. I sliced it thinly. Now I'm just gonna chop it. I'll do the same thing with half of a red pepper as well. Next, I'm very thinly, slicing a jalapeno. Here I have my 9x13 cake pan. I just sprayed it with Pam. I'm just going to dump my chips in there and spread them out.
Evenly. Evenly-ish.
Extra salt. Not that they'll need it. And the first things going on there are the green and red peppers I just cut.
Final bit.
Not the final, just one more layer. Next we have thinly sliced purple onion. And the first time I finally got to use these.
Red onion.
It's purple. It says red, but it's actually purple. I've been waiting for these to be available at the store, and they just haven't been. And I finally found them the other day.
Probably shouldn't lean on a hot oven.
Yeah, be careful. And your oven is already set to 350, by the way. I should have started with that, but I'm telling y'all now.
Until she gets a little emotional.
Emotional over nachos. Onions always make me cry. Doesn't matter what kind or what color. So next, all the olives. Hey, get out of my food. It's not ready. Ah, yeah, go away. There we go. And Yeung Man used fresh tomatoes. I'm using Rotel diced tomatoes with lime juice and cilantro. It'll be delicious. Let me grab a spoon.
Cheap AF.
Yeah, it was.
Fancy.
It's gonna look colorful, and this will add extra juice
Heat.
and heat. It'll be delicious. Plus we already have jalapenos in there. Look how colorful it is.
The total cost of this entire dish is probably like less than $5.
Oh yeah, easily.
Between the bell peppers, the tomatoes, the tortillas, all that stuff.
Cheap meal.
Yeah.
And very filling. Alright, so on top of that, I will add rinsed and drained black beans. Oh yeah. We'll just spread those out. Looks good.
Yes, it does.
Alright, now on top of this we have our Chipotle sauce. We'll put way more on there than Yeung Man did. I don't know.
He ain't American.
But I don't want to use the whole cup because I want to put extra on our plates. Because that's how we do things. Alright, so I've got, I don't know, maybe a 1/4 cup in there.
Very nice.
Then, hey, did you put your hand in there?
No.
Oh, okay. I thought he was stealing a olive. Alright, here's our cheese sauce. Y'all, I love this stuff. It's so yummy.
I stepped on the nutritional yeast, so I don't like taste.
Accidentally on purpose?
No, just accidentally.
Alright. Look how delicious that looks. Alright, saving about a little more than 1/4 cup, I think. I don't know, I'm not measuring. But enough for our plates.
It's not essential, it's just a preference of ours.
Yeah, put your nachos in for about 3 minutes.
Very nice.
Keep an eye on them. Alright, it's been about 3 minutes. Look at that. Nacho cheese. Good. And we'll garnish with cilantro.
I'm gonna eat that cilantro. Less garnish, more delicious.
More delicious, yeah. And y'all can add as much or as little as you like. We just like a lot of cilantro.
I think we should have. And arugula.
And arugula. Oh, arugula is so good. There we go.
Alright, let's see how this tastes. Wow. The flavors from the tomato really bring out everything from the lime. And it's really hearty for being vegan. It's still a really hefty texture in the mouth. You got the beans, you got the sauce, which is, cashew based, so it's a little bit heavier than your regular cheese sauce. Then the chips. On point.
So crunchy.